Yeah. All right. Sound works. Gabe, speak for me, please.
I am speaking for you in a tone and a language that you might comprehend.
Okay. I mean, maybe. I don't know.
On a good day.
On a good day. That's.
I mean, we've both been that level of plastered before, so.
That's true. That is a good point. All right. It looks and appears that we are firing on all cylinders. No kind of dropping frames nonsense. So that's good. And, why is Fit for an Autopsy on here? Oh, gotcha.
Because they dropped an album or something like that? I'm not sure.
Well, are you sure it wasn't for your show? Because we haven't done a podcast in that amount of time. That could have been it. I don't know. We'll figure it out.
Who?
All right. Gabe, you know what? I'm going to actually insert the intro here. So hold on.
We're doing that again? How many episodes has it been?
It's been a while. It doesn't sound particularly great still. I don't know what's causing that, but we'll fucking figure it out on the greater end. Oh,
tell you guy who mixed it and mastered it to fix it. I can't listen to it.
Let me staple these together. All right. Let me make sure we're good on that front. All right, Gabe. Again, give it like 20 seconds, whatever. You know the deal. Because you're not going to hear it. Yeah, you're not going to hear it, but I'm going to hear it. All that good stuff. Are you ready? So no, you're not ready?
I am now.
What is going on, guys? Welcome to the Second City Kids podcast, episode number 177.
177.
And
it was also the judge's scorecard for my bass playing a bit. Anyway.
Okay, true. And we are back on the south side of Chicago, Illinois. And I know it's been a while. You guys get the fucking point here. You know, we got a lot of shit going on. I'm a dad. He's got like a bazillion different enterprises going on, which I'm sure he'll talk about. Maybe. I don't know.
I have exactly zero enterprises. Just too many hobbies.
Well, isn't one of them kind of sort of becoming an enterprise? We'll talk about that. But we are back. So we have a lot of stuff to talk about, from the Batman to a couple album releases to a band ending. But yeah, we'll talk about that as we go along. We're going to play it by ear. We're going to talk about the bats. We'll see how much time passes. And then, if we have some room and some time, we'll talk about some more shit. So, but predominantly this will be a very heavy, the Batman centric podcast from what I had imagined. And, I just want to kind of talk about it because I think, fair to say, at least from my end, it is one of the more higher anticipated movies of this year. And, I wanted to talk about it. So, yeah, but before we get into that, we have a whole thing that we go over first. And Gabe, it's been a while. How you doing, man?
Good. Philly was good to me for the most part. Got back. Now we back on the grindstone, so to speak. Yeah.
So, yeah, like I said, it has been a while. I'm actually going to be soon. Before baseball season starts, which is in about a week, I will be using this feed for my sports show, which I will be doing as well. So it's going to be kind of a dual podcast, dual feed kind of a thing for the Second City Kids, as well as the sports thing, which I have.
You going to get Adam back on here?
I don't know yet. It is part of the plan, but he's a busy guy and can kind of be more difficult to wrangle. More difficult than you to wrangle to sit in front of a computer and talk with me. So,
oh man, I don't think I was that difficult, but okay.
You know the deal. But yeah, we are back. So, yeah, same old shit with me, man. Grinding away at work, doing God's work, having a good time, actually. It's one of the first times legitimately, that I'm having a good time working for a company because the dudes are cool and everybody's cool. Cause usually, and you know how this is, Gabe, if you're having a good time, it's usually because of the people that are there. Right?
Not because of the work.
Not because of the work. I'm having kind of fun doing both. So it's a nice change of pace for me. So yeah. But like I said, very heavy, the Batman centric podcast coming up. right now. And spoilers, I'm assuming, right?
Yeah, I mean, I kind of want to get some thoughts out there. So if you haven't seen The Bats, I guess go and watch that if that's your thing. Otherwise, you've been warned.
Yeah, you have been warned. A lot of stuff to talk about. So where do you want to start, man?
I was literally just about to ask you. I think we should start off with our general thoughts on the movie. We kind of know Batman's your thing, and I know what your stance is on this one, but who do you want to go first?
I'll let you go first.
Oh, boy. Okay, this is going to be a really awkward podcast.
Oh, no.
So, The Batman with Robert Pattinson, whatever.
Pattinson.
The Bear, Oswald Pattinson, whatever you want to call him.
Sure.
The worst Batman since pre-Tim Burton.
Wow, okay.
The movie was inexcusable. It was I'm just kidding. Actually, the movie was pretty solid.
Okay, I was gonna say, I'm like, wow. I'm like, really?
So here's my thing. I actually had quite a blast in theaters, and I went with Nikki and his friend, and we literally had this conversation. You and I had this conversation on the way to Jackass that it seems like people's attention spans are getting shorter, but movies are getting longer. Maybe it makes sense. The Bats was just right around the 3-hour mark, right?
Well, it's like 2 hours and 56 minutes or something like that.
Yeah, so go pee.
Definitely.
Definitely go pee twice if you can beforehand. That being said, man, it was a really solid movie. I don't want to say said my piece, but I kind of predicted it beforehand, and I said that if this movie blows, it's not going to be because of the acting. It's going to be because of the writing and directing. And so I wanted to bring that up again because, well, one, the movie doesn't blow, and then two, there's been a sudden shift in the sort of cultural acceptance of who and what is Batman, right? Because now suddenly it's like, well, shit, like I couldn't imagine anybody else doing Batman except Robert Pattinson, right?
Yeah.
So I kind of wanted to start off by saying this. The movie was pretty solid. I don't know if it's my favorite Batman yet, and I want to say yes, but I also feel like that's my recency bias, right? It was the most recent Batman I delved into, and especially the whole movie-going experience. I feel like that is all super important. The question will come out when, it comes out on Blu-ray, DVD, the whole 9 yards, and see how many times are you going to rewatch this film when it's sitting on your shelf and you got a spare 3 hours, right?
True.
So that being said, I think this movie did a lot of things well. I think they really, really made Gotham its own personality in this movie, which I fucking love. Make the setting its own personality. Not enough movies do that. It wasn't like the Dark Knight trilogy where it was Chicago and like Philly, New York, East Coast vibes. It wasn't just a mishmash of that. Gotham felt incredibly unique, and all the practical effects were done beautifully. All of the actors put out, and I saw a tweet the other day, I think I sent it over to you, where it was like, I bet Gotham's hardcore scene is absolutely fucking insane. And I was just like, yeah, it has that vibe to it. Overall, I vibed with the movie. I got a couple of really hot takes, but I'll save those for a little bit down the line.
Okay.
I think everybody put out. I think everybody showed out. And that being said, like, the movie was pretty gritty, and it was still PG-13. So, for everyone out there who's like, oh, well, I'm not watching it unless it's rated R and there's, buckets of blood. Like, no, dude, I think they got their point across with very minimal, like, gore. I mean, I'm not gonna say there wasn't any violence. There definitely was, but there was like minimal blood and guts, and it still somehow managed to work. Because I promise you, if this thing was rated R, I would have done buckets of blood personally. But just goes to show that you can still get gritty, down to earth, corrupted realism sort of without going overboard on the horror thriller, sort of the shit that we're used to, the murdery vibes. But overall, I really like the movie. I am debating on whether or not to go see it a second time, and you know how I am about theaters and movies, and so I think that's a pretty good sign.
Yeah, for sure. My opinion. So I actually did see it twice. I saw it once with my wife. Obviously, I had the kind of the IMAX experience with it. You had an IMAX experience with it as well, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I had the IMAX experience with my wife, like kind of the early showing for it. Did that, missed out on the goddamn cowl, so I'm a little upset because I missed out on the fucking popcorn cowl. Bums me out, but it is what it is. And then I saw it again in IMAX again with Nikki, so Nikki saw it twice too.
Nice.
Yeah, so I got some opinions on it, and if you've talked to me in person, I've spoken very glowingly about this film. There are several things that I appreciate about it. I will kind of agree with you is that as far as nailing the personality of Gotham, this is like the first real movie to do it. You nailed it, hit the nail on the head. When it comes to the Dark Knight trilogy, it's either Chicago or it's Pittsburgh, right? It's one of those two things. It's kind of very obvious. And outside of the Batman Begins, where it kind of had the Narrows, which granted the Narrows were very CGI in the Batman Begins, there's really nothing that defines it as anything other than Chicago or Pittsburgh, right?
And let me touch on that really quick. Mm-hmm. I really do enjoy the Dark Knights, and I know you do as well.
Absolutely.
But it is absolutely like reality shattering. It takes you out of the movie when you see shots and you're like, oh yeah, that's Lake Street. That's literally right by the bottom lounge. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that and like, that's very obviously Lower Wacker Drive, and stuff like that. Yeah, I would totally agree with you on that. This Batman was shot here as well, a decent portion of it, and there are things that I did recognize, but unless you're straight up
you're looking for it,
or you're straight up from Chicago, you're not going to recognize those things, right? Like the Thompson Center playing the Gotham Arena thing or the Gotham Stadium thing. Like you're not going to know that unless you're from here, What I do want to talk about is the acting. So you and I mentioned prior to the film coming out is that we had, as far as casting, man, they did a great job with it. My only contention, because I didn't see any of his movies prior to this, was Robert Pattinson as Batman. This is my favorite rendition of the Batman. Now, you can talk about maybe he doesn't have the gravitas to be a Bruce Wayne. I can understand that criticism. I would usually counter that with, well, he's not complete yet. He hasn't figured out how to balance those things.
And you know what? Here's a second thing, because I've seen a lot of people complain about, oh, well, this Bruce Wayne isn't like the playboy millionaire philanthropist, right? And it's like, well, I'm sorry, was this movie titled Bruce Wayne or was this movie titled Batman? You know what I mean?
That's a big thing too, yeah.
And my whole thing about that, because it's a genuine complaint, and that fantasy has been catered toward probably all the way up until this point, as far as I know, right? It's like, dude, I get that, but you see how shitty and corrupt and slimy this city is. Like, what do you think the million and billionaires are going to be like? You know what I mean? And I'm not saying that, Bruce Wayne is also corrupt, but the movie definitely hints at that.
Yeah.
And if you tell me that there's some Gerard Way looking motherfucker orphan who has locked himself up in his tower, and you asked me to guess which superhero it was out of all of the universes, out of all the compendiums, my first guess is always going to be Batman.
Correct. I 100% agree with that. And with that being said, I mean, it's not like the millionaires and the billionaires of Gotham are among the people. You know what I mean? Because like you said, this is the most grimy, dirty Gotham has been that we've gotten on a big screen. And if I were Bruce Wayne, I wouldn't want to fucking hang out in the streets either. You know what I mean?
Yeah, man.
I would lock myself away in a tower, and especially if the city claimed my parents, like, I'm not fucking hanging out amongst people, because what? My paranoia is that, well, the same thing's going to happen to me. I'm going to fucking go to a movie and I'm going to get shot in the fucking alley. I wouldn't want to hang out, with the people either. With that being said, I greatly appreciate that we did not get another, this is how he became, or this is why he became Batman. We know why he became Batman. All right. We don't have to have another Wayne's getting slayed. He's gotten slayed. They have gotten slayed about as often as Uncle Ben has, and we don't need it. I'm not talking about the fucking rice either. So
I was going to say, leave Ben and leave the Waynes out of the cinematic universes from now on, man. And Aunt May at this point too.
Yeah. They've been shot and killed and mutilated enough times that we don't need to see it on screen anymore. This movie respects the general populace and be like, you know what? We know, we're not going to have to go over this again. And yes, there is reference to his parents' murder a couple of times, but we didn't have to see it, which is nice.
Well, hang on. Actually, it was more than just a reference. It tied into a major plot point, which I think is better than just a throwaway line like, Alfred saying, "Oh, I know your parents were murdered, but I still love you. I'm your real dad." Good. But like, But it's one of those things where it's like it very, very easily could have been exactly that. Like a quick flashback, a quick little throwaway line, but no, the writers and directors brought it full circle and integrated the part we did not see on screen as a major part of the story. So thank you for not treating the audience as totally tone deaf and stupid.
Absolutely. I agree with that. Now, another thing that I thought was kind of different was Andy Serkis' Alfred. So I love Michael Caine. I think his performance as Alfred in the Dark Knight trilogy was good. I think it was great. But really, not until the very end, the last movie of that set, did we see him regret allowing Bruce to go down this path, right? Are basically admitting his failure as a caretaker to allowing Bruce to become what he became, right? And in this one, it's very obvious that Andy Serkis doesn't quite approve of Bruce's nighttime activities, and I'm not talking about the women he dates. So I appreciate that. And he's like, man, I'm doing the best I can, and maybe I could teach you how to fight, and maybe I did, and maybe this is not the best course of action, but I'm not going to abandon you in this endeavor, right? And which I appreciate. Andy Serkis as Alfred was great. I will say, though, probably my biggest complaint, not enough of him in this film.
I'm still in the Michael Caine camp, man. I don't think... I think that was the perfect casting, and I totally see where you're coming from, but... One, you're absolutely right. We did absolutely need more Andy Serkis on screen. But I don't know, man. I feel like it should have been a little bit more over the top for me. But that being said, not a bad choice. Still appreciated the actor.
Absolutely. Yeah. Just maybe a couple more scenes here and there to kind of establish that, I know Bruce is kind of like, well, I'm too fucking gangster and hardened to care about anybody or myself. And, they kind of had him have that realization. I do care about Alfred as well. And I care about his well-being. And I am angry that he got pulled into this nonsense. Right. So I'm glad that they actually established that near the end, but again, not enough. I'm just going to kind of move along the line of the acting and what a great job they did. Let's talk about Colin Farrell real quick. Number one, unfucking recognizable, right? My wife did not know Colin Farrell was in this movie, and so she's like, "Who is that?" I'm like, "It's Colin Farrell." She's like, "No fucking way." I'm like, "Yes, 100%, it is Colin Farrell." Hopefully they get a nod for like makeup for the Oscars next year, because wow, you cannot tell that it's him. And not just the makeup and how he looked, but his performance. The accent was fucking perfect, man. He nailed that. And the Iceberg Lounge, which, it was very much a character in this movie as well. We went there probably 5-6 times in the movie. We went back and forth.
Give or take between the characters.
Yeah. You had a situation where Bruce went there as Bruce Wayne, as Batman, and then as the kind of this in between, where he went there and showed up. So I appreciate Colin Farrell. I think he did a great job with his character. I think you could tell the ambition of the character, and I'm looking forward to kind of seeing how he ties in moving forward with the franchise, because it is going to be a set. That is the rumor, that they're going to do a set of 3 for this one.
6.
I don't know about that. I don't know about 6. I think that's a little bit too much. I think you're biting off more than you can chew by committing to 6. So yeah, very, very cool. He did a great job, and he was funny. He kind of brought some humor.
There was a lot of jokes that if you did not pay attention, they would have gone right over your head. Like at the very end, after the drug bust, where Zoe Kravitz was looking for, I can't remember what she was looking for, but she ended up finding the body of her
her friend. Yeah.
And after that immaculate car chase scene, holy
my
moly,
god, yeah, oh my god,
so good.
Yeah.
They had him tied up by the legs, and he waddled around like a fucking penguin. Like, I lost my shit during that.
Yeah. Scene. He's like, "Hey, don't forget about you guys forget I'm still here." And yeah, he was very good, and I'm looking forward to keeping him involved in kind of the chaos of Gotham as we move forward into the next couple of them. So very, very good. Jeffrey Wright, Jim Gordon.
Phenomenal.
Wow. Great fucking casting. I like kind of his approach to it, kind of being more of a quiet kind of detective, and really you see them actually working together detecting shit, which I appreciate. Because oftentimes, and I really don't want to keep doing this, but it's it's the same fucking character. I don't want to compare them to the Nolan films, but you kind of have to. What I liked about it is, like I said, they were working together trying to figure this out. When in the Nolan films, it was Batman presenting information to him and him being like, "Oh, okay, cool." You know what I mean?
Well, it's a different dynamic, right? Batman was in cahoots with the cops, and then he was in cahoots against the cops, and in there it was kind of like, Gordon, where are you getting all this information from? It's like, I don't know. I'm just really smart. Bro.
Oh, yeah, I figured it out. Duh. You didn't figure it out? Man, you should really fucking become a better cop. But yeah, I appreciate them actually showing Batman go to crime scenes and detect shit. I appreciate that. And he's not a perfect detective in this, which is also great. He did miss some key things throughout the film, some key clues, and basically like the whole final act where Riddler's like, wait, you didn't figure it out. You're not as smart as I thought you were. I appreciate that because he's still learning. He's not perfect. He is not infallible. And he's on his second year of doing this, and I like the fact that 2 years in, the Batman hasn't had the impact that he thought he would have. Right. Again, I don't want to do it, but you have to. Comparing it to the Nolan films, a year after the events of The Batman Begins, he's basically brought the mob down to his knees. You know what I mean? Where they're so desperate to have to hire the Joker, which is what they did in The Dark Knight, right? So in this one, he's like, I'm still beating the shit out of low level criminals here, and it doesn't really seem to be making an impact in the overall scheme of things, which is also awesome. I appreciate that because there is going to be a lot of growing pains when it comes to that. So
I kind of want to hark on two elements that you've kind of lightly touched on, but like haven't seen the forest for the trees, not of your own accord. But first of all, the thing you mentioned where it's like, don't give us another how they died scene, right? And then in addition to that, you're absolutely right. We're seeing the early years of the Bats, of Gordon, of, I don't want to say Falcone and Penguin, but sort of like their middle years of meddling with Gotham, right? But we are still seeing where Bruce is starting to make a difference in the city, and that in of itself makes for a much better origin story than just copying and pasting panel for panel what the comics did, right? We have over 70, 80 years now of like cultural exposure, and especially like, this is the platinum age of comics where everybody who's even remotely ever sat near a theater has seen a Marvel or DC movie, right? And if you want to talk about a good origin story, this is the new standard where it makes good assumptions as to what the audience already knows. Still uses that information in a meaningful way and establishes our characters' importance and their dynamics in the world. And you're absolutely right. Him fighting low-level crooks that don't mean shit in the grand scheme of the entire drug ring, in the grand scheme of the entire corrupted world of Gotham City, that is exactly what we fucking needed to see here.
I agree.
Okay, and then secondly, DC has proven a very big point with this movie, right? DC has proven that you can indeed, in fact, very much so, juggle multiple villains in a movie, make them all super relevant, super important, and don't shaft anyone. The only quote-unquote form of shafting a villain in this movie was literally the audience going, damn, I hope they come back, or damn, I hope they get more spotlight in the next one. That's what you want. You don't want plot holes. You don't want loose ends. You want the audience going, damn, I hope they come back.
Yes, I agree with that totally. Because there's a lot of moving parts to this movie plot wise, right? And you would think that a lot of it would get lost and there would be a lot of loose ends, when in reality they do a great job of tightening up whatever loose ends you think may be hanging out there and leaving a little bit out there for people to be like exactly what you said, which is, I hope that this character gets more to do in the next film. The Penguin and the Catwoman are like the big characters for me when it comes to that. And I'm very curious because Jim Gordon is not the chief of police yet. Batman is not Batman quite yet. Matter of fact, they call him Vengeance more in this movie than they call him Batman, which I think is kind of a nice change of pace and interesting.
Can I touch a little bit on that vengeance aspect too?
Sure.
So, do you remember when Batman Begins came out,
mm-hmm.
and then everybody and their mamas, College Humor, your friends, my friends, the weird quirky English teacher, they were all doing the Batman voice.
Yes.
There is a lot of, let's face it here, cringiness in this movie, but hang on, let me finish.
Mm-hmm.
It is done in such a manner that it is walking that fine line between serious over the topness
mm-hmm.
and cringy self-realization over the topness
mm-hmm.
to this like literal like balance, okay, that is simultaneously the coolest fucking thing ever, and that you can take out of context and
mm-hmm.
you can make those jokes again.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, this movie, like especially the Nirvana song, especially the Vengeance thing, like it does it well.
Mm-hmm.
It does it well. Don't get me wrong. I'm not like, oh man, that was so cringy, that was so bad. No, I enjoyed it. That's the bad part.
Yeah, right.
You know what I mean? When you shouldn't be, when if you take these moments out of context, when the fucking Blu-ray release gets dropped, wait for all the memes to come out. I promise.
Yeah, no, for
There'll
sure.
be hundreds.
Yeah.
Warming the meme market. But it's one of those things where it's like, damn, if they inched in either direction, it would have been a moment that you look back and you go, CinemaSins would be bing,
bing.
You know, right? Like, yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
But it is done so well.
Yes, absolutely. So, now it's funny because we were about, maybe 20 minutes into this review, and we haven't really talked about the star villain of this film. So, Paul Dano Riddler, I think you and I were both very confident that he could bring a level of grit and grime to this character that I think a lot of the general populace will kind of see as more of a cheesy 1960s Batman kind of villain where he talks in riddles and, he doesn't really do a whole lot of violent things in the live action adaptations that we've gotten so far. I mean, look at the fucking Jim Carrey Batman Forever situation, right? Very campy, very kind of silly. That's Jim Carrey. That's what he does. I'm not mad at him for it. He made a creative choice, right? In this particular, he is more akin to the Zodiac Killer. He is more akin to the killer from Seven than he is to anything.
Oh my God.
You
Don't
have
get me
seen
started.
so
Don't
far.
Get me started on how this literally first thing I said as soon as we walked out was, wow, that was like Batman meets Seven.
Yeah, it basically is what it was, right? It's very obvious that was an inspiration. There's a lot of noir detective films that this takes from. It takes from Chinatown. It takes from from Zodiac. It takes from Seven. It takes a lot of that, and it kind of it pays respect to its inspirations without blatantly ripping it off, right? So, I love the creative decisions they've made with Paul Dano the Riddler in this movie. I love the fact that he's very practical in his approach. Go ahead.
Let me say this. He is not my favorite Riddler. The Gotham Riddler is my favorite.
Okay.
But that has multiple seasons and the episodes are an hour long. So, of course, he's going to have more exposition. Of course, he's going to have more schemes and screen time and all that stuff, right?
Yeah.
That being said, you are absolutely right. And this is coming from someone who likes the campiness of the Riddler, right?
Okay, sure.
They really, really leaned into like the psychology of like a serial murderer. Like if you put Paul Dano in his Riddler outfit on like JCS, like that channel on YouTube, like the criminal psychology one where he interviews all the crazies, right?
Yeah.
You would not be able to distinguish what's fact from fiction. And that's one of those things that I think they pulled off really well. Now that statement is going to bite me in the ass when I give you my really, really hot takes about where these movies should go.
Okay.
But I will wholeheartedly accept and take that.
Okay.
But couple of things. Yes, casting was phenomenal. The Riddler himself was really good, and he leveraged a couple of really good things like, raising an army from what I'm assuming was YouTube or TikTok, whatever it may be, right? Some sort of video sharing platform. Sort of, and like a peek inside of like the incel community. I know that's what he wasn't per se, but like that's kind of what this weirdness felt like to an extent, right? It was like, I shouldn't be here. I shouldn't be in this like weird thread or whatever the fuck it may be, right? Like it almost felt wrong taking a peek into his world.
Yes, for sure. It's a dark part of society that feels like the rich and the powerful have been shitting on the little guy, which they have. And I don't want to say you understand why people are angry, but you understand why this group of people are angry, because
you see why B precedes A.
Absolutely. And granted, you may not agree with their opinion, but you're like, I can't really blame them. You know, they've been taken advantage of by the powerful and the corrupt in this city. And you understand that, you know, that there's consequences eventually that come to roost when it comes to, you know, the powerful and the corrupt taking advantage of the little guy, essentially. And I love Paul Dano in this. I love his voice. The voice was just, and the fact that it would come out of nowhere oftentimes kind of leaves this kind of schizophrenic kind of a vibe to it, where he will get very intense and angry and start screaming. And I love that about this character, about this rendition of the Joker, Freudian slip, the Riddler. And I love it. I think he did a great job with it. I love how without the costume, he's this very unassuming, unintimidating version of himself, but mirrors Batman in a lot of ways, that when he puts the costume on, he kind of becomes this different kind of being. He can this different type of reality that he creates for himself, where he can be this guy who does these horrible things. And
do you know what we call that in literature, my friend?
What do you call that in literature?
We call that a foil character.
Okay, absolutely. And in a lot of ways, he's a reflection of Batman, just kind of this warped, a person who has this warped kind of sense of reality, how he will envision his version of the Batman. Because at the end of the day, he thought, and that's which I thought it was kind of an interesting play, he thought him and Batman were on the same side. He didn't realize that Batman was trying to stop him. He just thought, well, I can't do what he can do. I'm not this brooding man, or this violent force of nature that Bruce Wayne, the Batman, is.
I'm the brains,
yes,
and you're the muscle.
Exactly. We are working together to stop the corruption and the violence in the city, without really realizing, or ironically not realizing, that, dude, you are doing things that are worse than a lot of the corrupt and violent do in this city, and he doesn't even have that realization. So I think it's kind of interesting. I love how in the scene where he is in Arkham Asylum and they have that conversation face to face for the first time, how he kind of lets it hang, Bruce Wayne, right? And in that moment, Bruce is like, fuck, he knows who I am, right? Shit, he realizes who I am. He knows that Bruce Wayne is the Batman. What the fuck am I going to do? And he says, is the one person that we couldn't get. And it's like, oh, he is not as smart as he thinks he is too, right? So kind of that conversation, how it was laid out, it makes you think, shit, he knows, right? He actually does it, which I think is kind of an interesting way of doing it. And once Batman comes to the realization, oh shit, he doesn't know who I am, suddenly he has the confidence to continue to speak to him, right? Because during that whole thing where he's going on his rant about Bruce Wayne, he's like, he's dead quiet, doesn't say nothing, right? Just examining the room, realizing that cameras are on, and he's like, shit. And then he's like, yeah, we didn't get him. He's like, okay, sweet. Now I could challenge his thought process and have a conversation with him and have the confidence that he does not know Bruce Wayne is Batman, which I loved. A lot of things are done in this movie with silence, right? And you would think a movie with the big bombastic score that it has, will have kind of lean on that. And with the Nirvana song that, that was all over the trailers and the marketing for this film, you think they would love it. Yeah, and the ending and the intro and all that stuff. You would think that it would rely very heavily on it, and it didn't. It did a great job with silence and knowing when to use it and knowing when Batman's wheels are turning as a detective. I love that. All right. So the Riddler does violent shit in this movie, right? And like you said, you would think, with the synopsis of the story, that there will be this over-the-top violence. And yes, the violence in it does make you uncomfortable, but it's not buckets and buckets of blood, like you mentioned, right? They do a great job with the, what's the word I'm looking for? With the idea of violence that was committed. Not
what you don't see.
Yeah, exactly. What you don't see. The whole thumb drive thing had me fucking dying. I thought it was hilarious. But just, hey, he cut off his thumb and shit like that. Like it did a great job overall with all of that. The plot is very well paced. I know I did see some complaints that in the middle where the Riddler's not involved, it gets a little slow, but it's part of the story, right? And people are saying, it's too long. Yeah, but I didn't really feel like anything in the movie was unnecessary,
Yeah, that was a big point of mine where I felt the length of the movie. I don't know about yourself, but everything that was in there, all of it was killer, no filler.
Yes, absolutely. And that's the thing that me and Adriana talked about, because like a lot of people I did see some reviews that said kind of the opposite. Well, you don't feel a minute of the 3 hour. I'm like, you feel it. Maybe because we're getting older. I don't know. Maybe if I was 17 and watched this in the theater, it would have flown right by. I don't know. But
man, do you want to know why you feel it?
Why?
Movies are created in ways, it's like a horror, right? Mm-hmm. You create tension, you build up to it, and then you do the scare or you don't, and you release for a little bit. Yeah. This movie is not a horror movie, but this movie also did not have a release. It did not have a handbrake. It kept you on a steady, 60% anxiety level all the way through. And you might not feel it 10 minutes in. You might not feel it an hour and a half in, but you're going to feel it by the time it lets go.
Definitely. And I just like the fact that, kind of by the end of this movie, when all the pieces of the puzzle are on the table, Batman starts to come to the realization of what he should be, right? He's been the symbol of vengeance, right? And when Batman ultimately foils the quote-unquote army of Riddler's plan, and that particular man who he's beating the shit out of that Gordon has to stop, once he comes, he says, "I am vengeance." That one random faceless person says, "I am vengeance." Batman's like, I can't be that.
Find a new catchphrase.
Yeah. And I can't be that. Because me being vengeance has inspired this, right? Has inspired these people to take matters into their own hands and to try to do what I do, right? But I'm not wearing hockey pads, right? That type of thing. But he's like, I got to be hope. I have to be light. It's very symbolic when after the flood kind of runs its course and Bruce is pulling those people out and leading them out of the darkness, that he realizes that's what I have to be. I have to be the light of Gotham, to pull people out of the darkness and move them forward, to help them heal and become more. Because when he has the conversation with the to-be mayor, she's like, well, by my account, you're not really doing anything. Batman doesn't realize that part is equally as important as what he's doing on the streets at night. And he's starting to realize, I have to be more than just a vigilante who beats the tar out of people at night, which he does a great job of beating the piss out of people, right? And he needs to be more than just that. And he's realizing it. I need to be hope. I need to be the light of Gotham. So in the next movie, which there will be a next one, they've already talked about it. Hopefully he'll have a better grip of that, right? Maybe it won't be as dark and dingy. Maybe Gotham won't be as dark and dingy because he's starting to realize the course of action that he has to take to help save Gotham at the end of the day. Because he even said, I don't know what I'm doing is helping, but I have to try. Maybe he'll have better success knowing the path he has to take. And as a character, I love the arc. I really do, because he comes off as very angry, very pissed off, and he takes it out on the people of Gotham, or the criminals of Gotham at the lower levels, not knowing that the problem doesn't exist with just the everyday villain. The problem exists at the core of Gotham. The fact that it is very corrupt and broken, and it needs to be fixed. But it will get worse before it gets better. And I'm curious on what the Arkham HBO show, which is coming out, which I'm imagining is going to be kind of like the Mortal Kombat Legacy, where each episode is dedicated to a different villain of Gotham. That they're going to kind of fill out kind of the backstories for a lot of these people. Because I imagine by the end of this set, it will come to a crescendo, an apex, right? And everything is going to blow over, and Batman's going to have to fix it, finally, once and for all. fix it. I don't want to continue the review without mentioning Zoe Kravitz as Selena Kyle / Catwoman. Again, not outright said that she is Catwoman, but we know who she is. And she has a good story too, right? The Carmine Falcone storyline with John Turturro did a great job as Carmine Falcone, and actually made him have a little bit more personality and be a little bit more diabolical other than just mob boss, right? I like that. And I liked her story arc, and it told a good story, and it related to the comics very well with the Long Halloween stuff. And yeah, she did a great job. They have great chemistry. I saw as a complaint, they don't have chemistry. I don't know what you were watching, because I think they do have good chemistry. So overall, I love this film. I think it's because a lot of people jumped on it and said it's their favorite Batman movie, and I agree, but it's a different type of Batman film. If you want a Batman that's probably closer to the comics, then yeah, this is perfect. But if you like it,
also depending on which comic there, bud.
Yeah, that's true. I guess that's true as well. But if you want a Batman that's maybe more based in reality, then I think you're gonna prefer the Nolan film still, which I'm not mad at you for. Me personally, I love the personalization of Gotham in this. I like the fact that Batman hasn't quite figured it out yet, and he's actually working towards becoming more. That he doesn't just pop up in this movie, and he's already got the mob of Gotham down to its knees, and it requires this extreme level of the other side of the spectrum villain to kind of restore balance in that way. That he's still working towards becoming more and becoming the Batman as we know him, and becoming Bruce Wayne as we know him. So I appreciate that in the long run.
A+ origin film.
Yes.
A solid A film for me. It really put out.
Uh-huh.
Now, I got a couple of, I guess, comments and concerns before we move on to my hot takes for what the sequels should be.
Okay.
So first and foremost, it was either Johnny Cash or Elvis Presley that said it takes a lifetime to write your first album, and it takes a year to write your second album.
Uh-huh.
Okay. My concern here is that because there was so much doubt, and because there was so many people saying Robert Pattinson can't do it, and he's become kind of the I don't give a shit anymore guy, which I think is excellent for his fucking persona.
Yeah.
But because I think that there was so much time, love, effort, work, and money carefully put into this film, now I'm kind of concerned that the follow-up is going to be, we need to have it out in 2 years, like, do whatever you got to do, you know what I mean?
Okay, I understand that.
That's just a small concern, because we spoke on the sequels the other day very lightly, specifically Disney sequels, but like, The Lion King, 1.5 was phenomenal, but 2 was not. Aladdin, right?
Yeah.
Like, there is a subset. There's a whole category of the good Disney sequels.
Yes.
You know what I mean? So that's one of my concerns going into this, is that because everybody was kind of like, I don't know, bro, but I'm still going to go see it. You know what I mean? Now people are expecting it. The bar has been raised, not only for Pattinson, but this generation of the Bats. My second thing.
Okay, can I make a counterpoint to that before you move on to the next thing?
Yeah.
I think a lot of people felt that way about The Dark Knight going into The Dark Knight Rises, right? The bar was really high up there. The Dark Knight Rise was great. I like it. I liked it a lot. But I think the general populace will agree, good, not as good, right? So I'm going to try to ease some of your concern with that. This movie was directed by Matt Reeves, right? My opinion, The War for the Planet of the Apes, which he directed, was better than any of the other Planet of the Apes movie that came before. And that, I don't say that lightly. Those movies are very, very good. Those 3 Planet of the Apes movies that he did. The third one was the best one because it had this story arc throughout all 3 films. That character,
it had the crescendo.
Yep. That character Caesar became what we know he was supposed to become by the end. And you were satisfied with the story, and it bleeds into all of the other Planet of the Apes lore stuff that we know exists, because all the movies and the books and TV show and all that stuff that exists currently. That character Caesar became what we expected him to be. So,
I gotcha. The thing I still don't understand is how they got the Statue of Liberty up to that planet of the apes. But kidding. No, I totally understand. Yeah. I am all on board for this director, but there's a lot more moving parts than just a director and writer.
Sure. For sure.
So, and if any of those fails at any given moment, like, there could be a catastrophe for this franchise.
Okay.
But I'm staying hopeful. I'm staying very optimistic. I did not think this movie was going to be as good as it was. I think it was going to... My anticipation was, yeah, it'll be fine.
Yeah.
I think that's what both you and I felt going into it. Like, yeah, it'll probably be all right.
Mine was, I hope it doesn't suck. So that was the mindset that I went to. So maybe that's why I was like super mega blown away by it and why I liked it so much, because I was so afraid that it was going to suck, and that the fact that it didn't, and in a lot of ways was really, really fucking good. That's why I was so happy with it.
Cool. So I guess you can say you're Team Edward now?
Oh, fuck you.
Okay, so this is actually that was a great segue, thanks to me. I want to talk about this for a moment, because Robert Pattinson was obviously in the Twilight franchise, and that was his biggest role up until the Batman.
Yes, I would
we've
say.
seen this happen. I'm sorry, what?
No, go ahead.
We've seen this happen with a multitude of actors, particularly with, Harry Potter must not go to Hogwarts. Daniel Radcliffe, I don't know if you've been keeping up with his filmography, but the man has enough money to do kind of whatever he wants.
Absolutely.
And that's fair territory. You do movies you like and you're interested in. I'm not criticizing that. But that being said, that is an actor who, I don't want to say peaked, but whose early roles will forever overshadow anything he does.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, this isn't on the actor. I blame this wholeheartedly on the agents. Okay. And now, here's my concern, because I've been mentioning it for a while now, right? But I don't think anybody's like taking me seriously about this. Tom Holland. Okay. With the Spider-Man. My fear is that he ends up in a very similar situation that these two, one of them still currently in, and the other one just recently got out of.
Okay.
That they are the forever Spider-Man. You know what I mean? And that's what they will be known for. And let me throw this out there. I don't mean to totally, take away from the Batman or anything like that, but I just watched The Devil All the Time. It's a Netflix movie with actually both Pattinson and Tom Holland, and I did not expect shit from this movie. My girlfriend was just like, yeah, I heard it was good. I was like, all right, fuck it, throw it on. I was literally shushing her by the end of it, because I was like on the edge of the fucking couch. Like, this movie was good. I genuinely really adore that film. It's gritty, it's nasty, it has all the Southern grime you could ask for, or outside of an Every Time I Die album, right? But that being said, like, Tom Holland's agent needs to get on it, because he is riding a gargantuan high.
Yes.
Right? And he was an excellent Spider-Man, and we talked at length about the last one and how amazing it was. But let's get you into other movies. Let's get you a career trajectory once more.
Sure.
Okay? Because before the Spider-Man, you were Tom Holland. But after the Spider-Man, you are Spider-Man.
Yes.
That's the issue I'm having here. And Robert Pattinson proves that you can get out of that. Okay? If you told me a decade ago, if I told you a decade ago that the dude who played a sparkly vampire in Twilight is going to be the next Batman,
I would burn you at the stake.
You would have burned me at the stake along with all your Batman merch.
Yeah, probably.
Okay? So it proves that it can be done. And I love Daniel Radcliffe. I loved all the weird fucking movies he's done.
Yeah. Weird shows, all that stuff.
Yeah. And, kudos to him. But that being said, I don't want to say it's a trap, but it very much is a trap that you need to get out of. Do not stunt your career.
Though I will say, you're right about Daniel Radcliffe kind of still being stuck in this box of being Harry Potter, and how Pattinson has gotten his way out of that. I do agree with you, but also Robert Pattinson didn't have to compete with the universe that Twilight created. Right? Because they're at the end of the day, Twilight was a fad at the end of the day, right? It was very successful, really, really fucking good as far as like the money that it drew and how, like, people who cared about it, but it didn't create a universe, right? Those Harry Potter movies, books, everything that has come after it is a universe that's built
we're still getting content.
Fucking Fantastic Beasts is around the corner, right?
And the Hogwarts Legacy.
And the Hogwarts Legacy is out, and the fucking Harry Potter game is out, or going to be coming out soon, which I'm going to add to the list if we have time. It's a whole thing. And again, it is physically built. There's the Universal Studios land that exists. Like, I would not put Twilight in that same category.
I wholeheartedly agree.
Mm-hmm.
That being said, then this might be an even taller mountain for Tom Holland to climb out of.
That is true. No, so definitely.
I'm not disagreeing with you. I wholeheartedly agree that the franchises are not equal in any way, shape, or form.
Pat's into Twilight to Harry Potter, not equal. Marvel to Harry Potter, pretty fucking close. So
I mean, money wise, I have no idea what that comparison looks like, but fan wise, I would argue that Marvel's even bigger.
I'd agree with that. Yes.
So it's one of those things, and I did want to mention it because especially after, Devil All the Time, both of these people, Pattinson and Tom Holland, are excellent.
Why do you always do that with Toms? I don't understand how Toms always have their name fucking flip-flopped.
Anyway, if you haven't seen it, you should watch it because both of them have great, great, great variety and depth to their characters in this film. But again, literally, like, 2 of the 3 people I'm talking about in a gritty, Southern, post-war serial killer vibe movie.
Okay.
It's capable. They are capable people.
Yeah.
It's just their agents need to step up their game. Now,
for sure.
Do you want to hear about my hot takes as to where the franchise should go?
Sure.
Okay. So if you were staying away from it, turn off this podcast now because we are going to talk about the person at the end of the movie in the cell. Okay, so this is your final warning. You've had spoilers. Now this is spoilers for the next movie. Okay. It's the Joker.
Yes.
Okay, here's my thing. Iconic Bat villain, sure. Overused, absolutely.
100%.
Now, here's where I think the film should go. Okay. The second movie, the Joker should be in the background. He should stay in Arkham.
Yes.
But he should be pulling the fucking strings on everything that's happening on the outside. Okay? And I don't give a shit who you toss in there. If you want to toss in Calendar Man, if you want to toss in whoever the fuck it is, make them interesting, make them gritty, make them fit. But the main plot should be driven by Joker puppeteering style. Okay? Like a mob boss that sends his fucking goons out even though he's quote unquote lost his freedoms and locked up. Okay? That's my premise for the second movie. At the end of the second movie, somehow, some way, either by his own volition or forcefully, Batman. No. No, we're gonna take this a step further.
Okay.
Batman gets thrown into Arkham. And then the third movie should be an Arkham Asylum style ordeal.
Oh, okay.
Where Batman is living with all of the people that he's fucked over.
He's locked up.
He's locked up and he is put in the fucking doghouse with these quote unquote criminals that he's put away, and now he's in the same boat. And I haven't decided whether I want it to be Batman or Bruce Wayne, and everybody knows who Bruce Wayne is, Batman. Because I think you could take it either way, and I'd be really happy. Even if it's just like a Batman goes into Arkham to get information out of someone, and then suddenly the Joker pulls a bunch of strings, like there's a full lockdown, all the guards are dead, you got to fight your way out, kind of like a, you know, for lack of better terms, let's call it like a zombie movie on a timer, right?
Sure.
But if you want to do that and really, really fucking nail the head home, that I think would be a phenomenal way of doing it.
Okay. I think that's a great idea, honestly.
You know,
because they do. I'm sure you saw it. They did drop a deleted scene from the film that did show us the Joker, and it's like 5 minutes long. It's not super long, but it did a great job of kind of establishing a before the movie relationship, a prequel relationship between Bruce Wayne, Batman, and the Joker. Because the Joker's like, oh, it's our anniversary coming up, huh? And basically, the Batman appeals to the Joker in kind of a Hannibal Lecter kind of a way. we got this guy running around. You can probably have a better understanding of him than I can. What do you think? And the Joker's like, okay, whatever. And I kind of want, you and I kind of agree, I kind of want that angle to be in the next one.
I run it like a season of Criminal Minds, is what you fucking do, where this dude's in the background while Bats is fighting the things that are like actionable items, let's call them, like physical things you can act on, right? You throw Scarecrow in there, you pull in, what's that dude, the murderer that starts with a Z?
Victor Zsasz,
thank you. I'm terrible with names. You throw in whoever the fuck you want. I don't care, like I said, right? But you have it all be because of the Joker. And then in the final third film, you have the confrontation. And you reveal how he made all this work and why. And boom, you have an easy send-off.
Yeah.
You either kill the Bats or you set him free.
Yep. Yeah. So, like I said, I agree with 100% with the second one. I actually didn't even think about the Arkham Asylum, Arkham City angle that you can take with this. I didn't even think about that. It's actually a really good idea. But for the next one, like you said, you could put any. I want a real serious version done of Mr. Freeze. We haven't gotten that yet. He's not 100% a true villain. He's more of like a. I don't want to call him an anti-hero either because he's not quite that. But he's
a sympathetic villain.
Yeah, there you go. That's the word I'm looking for. A sympathetic villain where you understand kind of his motives and get it. And my other idea was kind of like the secondary side villain, kind of like a Penguin was in this movie, was a Victor Zsasz or somebody like that of that nature. And, you have them go through this film. And by the end of the second film, you have the Joker break free. But I really, really do like your Arkham City, Arkham Asylum kind of a vibe. I think it would be kind of interesting because especially since the people like the cops, the police department of Gotham believe that he's kind of a freak too, that Bruce Wayne Batman is a freak. It wouldn't make sense for them to be like, well, let's lock his ass up then. You know what I mean?
Well, I mean, the setup is so easy too. Literally, like you literally elevated my point by saying that, Batman realizes he has to become Hope. In the second movie, you make him pious. You make him the public goody two shoes Superman-like figure, right? And in the beginning of the third one, you have
the fall. The fall from grace.
You have the fall, right? You either have a cop, blame him, accuse him of murder, like a setup, or he actually does accidentally kill an innocent person.
Yeah.
And now the cops who have never been on Batman's side, aside from Gordy, go, he's a fucking freak. I've been telling you this for 5 years now.
I told you. Yeah.
We have him on an actual crime. Lock him up now.
Yeah.
The setup is so easy. It's so natural, too.
Yeah. I could totally agree with that.
And then in the third movie, you have Batman fucking conflicted, like, damn, maybe I'm just as bad as these guys.
Yeah. Maybe because escalation, maybe I am the reason all of this has happened. You know what I mean? Because, that was a big thing. And from Batman Begins to The Dark Knight is the Joker came because of Batman, right? The Joker exists because Batman exists, and the way escalation works is that one thing it's a domino effect. One thing leads to the next. And if this gets worse as time goes on, and at the end, like you said in the third one, you could have an Arkham Asylum kind of situation where Batman is locked in.
The movie writes itself.
Yeah. And you're on this island, Arkham Asylum, Arkham City style situation where Batman is stuck with the people that he has put in jail. And he has to overcome all of the odds.
He has to overcome his past sins, is what he has to overcome.
Absolutely. He's put himself in this scenario where he is literally locked with the people that he's put in jail, put in the asylum, and all of them, one way or another, want him dead.
Put him in a fucking cell with Albert Fish. Boom.
Yeah, and then you could even have a situation where, like in the third one, I think you should keep Zoe Kravitz Catwoman out of the next one. And you could have her in the third one and be like, "What? How did I get stuck into your fucking mess? Like, I am living my life in Bloodhaven. How did I get caught in here with you?" And have him have some help in the asylum. You know what I mean?
There you go.
So I really do like that idea. I think it's a great idea, Gabe. I really do.
Because I was literally sitting there like, where are they going to take this? And then, like I said, I was like, well, the middle one, expand. Make it a proper sequel, and on the third one, you flip the formula on its head.
Or by the end of the second one, you have the setup for the third one, where everything starts to fall apart at the end of the second one. Batman gets caught, thrown in jail, and then you lead into you end the fucking second movie kind of the same way you ended the first one, with the Joker laughing his ass off because he's the one that's responsible for it. And then you have a setup and a lot of anticipation leading into the third one.
And, granted, like, I have to admit, it is a little bit familiar to what Nolan's Batman did to an extent, right? The sort of rise and fall of the Caped Crusader. But make it gritty, make it nasty, and for fuck's sake, I want to see Batman not fighting on his home turf. And I don't think putting him in a different city is going to solve that problem.
I really think that's a great idea, Gabe. I really do.
Thank you. Yeah, because Gotham is his city. He knows it in and out. He knows the shortcuts, all the alleyways. He knows the fucking highway, the flow of traffic. It's obvious in the movie, except for the fucking low hanging bridge where that was hilarious. By the way,
yeah, right. He just smacks into the. It's like, okay, I understand.
But okay,
he's armored
one
up.
Bridge in an entire city is what he couldn't remember, right?
And my favorite thing is like, okay, I understand that he's armored, but that should kill him. Like, he hit that shit really fucking hard. Like, that should kill. The impact alone should have killed him.
My favorite thing is that they literally never mention it again.
Yeah, right. He just fucking, he gets up, walks away, rubs rubs his head, and he fucking walks away. It's like, no, dude, you should have at least a couple of broken things attached to yourself.
Yes. But those are and I called them hot takes because I didn't know how they would be received, because you're going to have somebody totally on the other side of the fence that's like, well, no, I want a detective noir with Freeze, but like classic-y kind of good cop, bad cop vibe, you know what I mean? But it's like, nah, this isn't the way this is set up to be, in my opinion.
Yeah, because and honestly, the way you pitched it actually lines up very well with how Matt Reeves does these things. And because the first planet, was it Dawn of the Planet of the Apes, or is it Rise? I forget which one's first, because they're basically the same thing. Rise of the Planet of the Apes was kind of this triumphant story. By the end, you see how the character is going to progress into the future and how he becomes that character. And the second one, there's this conflict involved with the character. He's struggling with his role, his leadership. He understands he needs to continue to progress for the sake of his people, become better. And all of that. By the third one, there's the situation where everything he has done up to this point, he starts to question. He doesn't understand he is semi-responsible for the downfall of his people, and he needs to overcome that. And you can do that, just apply that to Batman. And Matt Reeves is a great director. He's proven that, right? And he could direct his ass out of a film. And if he could kind of take some of those story beats and apply
broad strokes, really
apply it to Batman, he could do something great. And the way you kind of laid it out is very similar. So I like it.
Well, there you go. Just a quick disclaimer: we are notorious on this podcast for writing
better movies.
We literally did that with Star Wars after seeing the first one.
Especially when it's a set of 3 that you and I care deeply about. We always write better movies. Always, 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 always.
So that being said,
grain of salt.
The next, that's just kind of what I want to see. Those are my ideas.
Sure.
If that ends up coming to fruition, Matt Reeves, contact me. I'll tell you where to send my check. I'll sell you the idea. I'm cheap too.
Throw me a mill. I am satisfied.
I settle for a lot less than that. Personally. Jesus, but
I don't know, man. I mean, I think even you could find a way to, milk that for all it's worth.
But regardless, that is my personal planned ideal trajectory for these movies.
Okay.
Is that going to come true?
I
don't know yet.
We'll see.
We got 2 or 3 years till the next one. But that being said, do you have any closing questions, comments, or concerns in regards to the bats?
No, man. I loved it a lot. It's kind of a different take on what we've gotten before. I love this movie a lot.
Here's a question for you.
Sure.
So the movie's already 3 hours long. Do you think there's going to be like an extended director's cut?
I think with the success, depending how you feel about it, of the Zack Snyder 4-hour Justice League cut, I really think you have no other choice.
You want to hear a hot take?
Sure.
Okay, so and you're gonna scold me for this, but it actually happened. We rewatched The Mummies in the past 2 days.
Okay.
We did one a night. And I have the super special sauce extra edition versions, right?
Okay.
And the first thing I did after we finished watching the first Mummy, I was like, I wonder what the deleted scenes look like. Do you want to know how many there were?
15.
2.
Oh, really?
2, and one of them didn't even make sense to include it. So really, like, one that was just like cut.
Really?
And I'm just like, it's possible to not be wasteful with creation of film. And, you know, I don't mean like physically, but time-wise, money-wise, like, so I'm curious to see, because I'm sure there's going to be a handful at the bare minimum. I'm curious to see how many, because if there's like a whole nother movie in the deleted scenes, then holy shit, like you guys filmed a lot. But I'm just kind of curious.
Like the Snyder cut, like there's literally a whole other film. You know, it was a completely different movie.
And that's my thing. Like I feel like the Bats did what it needed to do. It got across. Sure, 3 hours. That's nothing to scoff at. But still,
and a very
does it need to be any
efficient
longer
3
than
hours.
that? Efficient, yeah. Does anything beyond the 3 hour mark constitute as productive anymore?
Yeah, that's true.
Maybe if you're The Godfather, but that movie was a slow but very productive burn all the way through.
Absolutely was. Everything meant something.
Slow.
Everything meant something. Everything.
Yeah,
man. So
curious.
I loved it a lot. It's an A+ for me. I have a very hard time seeing how anything is going to be better than it for me personally this year. I'm not a fucking Academy Award voter. I'm not a part of the Academy.
Anyone at the Oscars.
I'm not slapping anybody at the Oscars. I'm not even gonna fucking get into that because that whole mess is.
Oh no! 2 rich people got into an altercation at their golden statue ceremony. Boo hoo!
It's been beaten to death. It's been memed to death. I'm already sick of hearing about it. And I like both of those people involved a lot. So I mean, I'm over it. I don't want to talk about it. So
whatever.
That's our opinion on the Batman. Go ahead and send an email to us if you agree or disagree. I've seen a lot of interesting takes on the movie, mostly positive, but there are some people who said, nah, I do see some people saying, nah, it's whack. I don't understand how people can have that opinion.
Even if it's not your favorite Batman.
Yeah.
It is still like top
3.
At least. I was going to say 3, but at least 5 at bare minimum.
Yeah, for sure. Definitely. Man, I seen some, I forgot who put it out. Shit. Was it IGN? It might have, no, it wasn't. Somebody who doesn't know as much as they should. Maybe like,
was it Lamb Goat?
No, I think it might have been like the Washington Post that put out, their best not Batman movies, but people who've played Batman. And man, how high fucking Ben Affleck was is mind-boggling to me. I just don't understand it. But
one of those things where if you 10 years ago, if you told me to pick between the two, the choice would have shocked me.
Yeah, that's true. So definitely, I mean, shit, it was the biggest box office for like 3 weeks running. So I have a hard time believing that you haven't seen it. But if you have not, definitely check that shit out. It was so good, so good. So we are about an hour in. We can, because I don't have a whole lot to say about anything else in movies and TVs. I really don't want to talk about gaming right now either, other than the fact that I am completely obsessed with Apex Legends yet again.
Here's what we're going to do.
Okay.
We're going to do a quick and dirty
edit
music news and reviews. First of all, really, really sad news.
Yes.
Every Time I Die is no longer together. Absolutely heartbreaking. And everybody's asked me, whose side am I on? Are you a Keith or are you the rest? I said, no.
It feels like your parents got divorced.
It feels exactly like that. It incredibly feels exactly.
Yeah.
And here's the thing. And I was trying to explain it to my coworker who's also a really big fan. And I used your example because it finally smacked me in the face, right? your example, you said, I don't care what the guys from Vanna do. I don't care what Davey Muse does. There will never be another Vanna.
Mm-hmm.
And sure, you like In Spirit.
I do.
Sure, they smack. They might be fun and this and that. But Vanna as an entity will never be a thing.
Correct.
As far as we know, right? But they ended off on good terms.
Yes.
Every time I die, at least there's still hope for you, Jake. There is none for me. Okay? It was ugly. It was messy. I'm upset. And as far as anyone's concerned, I'm not taking sides because everybody does something outside of the music scene. And I'm sure the 4 dudes, Andy, Jordan, Goose, and Steve, they're still doing music. They posted about doing music this week. So, if they can get Josh Scogan along, which I've seen as like a rumor that like, hey, Josh Scogan, like I think he's free. Like, no, he's still doing 68. And Scogan's really good at going, well, that's the lifetime of this project. Let me jump over. Right. So
sure.
even if you do get Scogan, it's going to be 10 years max.
It's going to be an album or 2 and then he out.
Yeah. But that being said, man, Keith writes, Jordan draws, Andy wrestles, Steve has a tiki bar, and Goose, he begs for bread at Hans. So that's a joke. I don't know what he does on the side. Everybody does something else. Yeah. And as much as I want all 5 of them to continue doing music, frankly, I find myself uninterested in that. The damn things, whatever it may be, whatever,
Which also won't be a thing because I'm pretty sure Jordan was involved in that as well, was he not?
No, he wasn't.
You sure?
I don't know if he did any writing or guitar parts, but I'm pretty sure he wasn't like a core member.
Okay.
But regardless if he was or not, it's like I just don't care enough at this point. And no, he is not a core member of them. I just double checked.
Gotcha.
But it's one of those things. You're absolutely right. Your parents are getting divorced. Sure, you can maybe have a favorite at the time,
but either ways, you lose.
Yeah, if you. And I can't speak for everyone on this because parents can be total shitheads. But if you grew up and both your folks were good to you, and you still end up in this situation, there's no winning.
I mean, at least if it's any kind of consolation for you, we didn't have to see Every Time I Die get bad. You know what I mean?
I don't think they would have ever hit that point. Personally. If you look at,
I'm sure a lot of people feel that way about their favorite artists, but then they see them get old and write music that's uninspired, and then they're like, they probably should end a couple hours ago.
I am very, very inclined to agree with you, but this band's discography is like no other.
Okay.
Like if you told me that a metal, punk, hardcore band, whatever you want to classify them, they do it all, right? If you told me a band like that out there exists, and that each release is better than the last, I would have asked, what fucking drugs are you smoking, and can I get your dealer's number?
Sure.
Is exactly what would I have said. That being said, yes, there is a lot of truth to your statement. In conclusion, this fucking blows. Thanks for coming to my TED Talk.
Yeah, I mean, I'm bummed out too. I mean, I'm sad. I'm upset. I blame Adriana because every single time she starts to like a band, they break up. Kind of like for that little time frame where every time you liked the band, they started to suck.
They totally flipped the fucking cog.
Yeah. So, I'm very bummed out about this. I'm double bummed out because I was supposed to see them in tour with Underoath, which we'll talk about in a little bit. But yeah, it's very sad. They're one of my favorite bands too. I'm not maybe as obsessed as Gabe. But
I literally have so much shit from every single individual and the collective at this house. You have no idea.
Yeah. They're in my top 10 of all time, and I was very, very sad to see them go, especially the circumstances of which the fact that they're not getting along personally really kind of upsets me, especially since you do have brothers in the band who are completely opposite ends of the spectrum on whose side, quote unquote, you should be on. Yeah, I'm not taking sides. I'm just sad that they're no longer a part of music together. I'm sad that a institution of the scene is gone, and it upsets me.
I think because this is one of those things, right? Like, where were you when? And forgive me for like equating it to this, but if you're old enough to remember 9/11, you know where you were, right? Yeah. And I literally remember getting the notification from you. I was talking. It was me, my girlfriend, and Ish, and I looked at my phone and I literally went pale, and both of them immediately knew something was wrong.
Yeah, that's bad.
And you know, like, we joke, we laugh, but like, I get it, dude. I haven't touched a pit since that Every Time I Die show right before lockdown. Like, I get it. And, you know, sorry for giving you crap for all those years, but like, I have no interest. I no longer have interest. You know, the only band I might come out for is the Devil Wears Prada. And that's like a couple of songs, not even like a full set like I would do for Every Time I Die.
Hey, man, now you know why I retired after Vanna.
So, yeah, I hear you, man. It blows, and it's unfortunate, but yeah, you know, the worst part is that these last 2 years have been crazy, tumultuous, unpredictable, and frankly kind of fucking scary, dude. My memory is like hardcore fucked up from when the pandemic started till now. Like, my timelines
it's a blender,
are
bro.
great.
Yeah.
It's a blend. And it sucks knowing that the one constant that was always there since 98 is no longer there. And I think that's the worst part. That you could always count on a banger album. You could always count on one of the craziest live shows you've ever been to. And the Christmas show, right? And that's just gone.
And it bums me out because like they wrote a really fucking good album that they did not have a chance to support.
No, not one bit. And well, you know, they had a small tour, right? And they, you know, thankfully all those people that went to the tour got to see All This in War with Josh Scogin, because 68 was touring with them. And that's, you know, that's like the magnum opus, man, right there.
For sure. Yeah, man. Sad day for the hardcore scene. It was very, very drama filled and kind of an ugly situation, unfortunately. But we will 100% miss Every Time I Die. And here's to holding out hope that maybe one day their differences could be set aside, and at the very least give their fans the opportunity to say goodbye in the way that we want to. And the way we want to is covered in tears, covered in blood, covered in sweat in the middle of a mosh pit somewhere. Rest in peace Every Time I Die.
Yeah. 13 shows, by the way, I've attended.
Yeah, that's wild. I think you might be close to me, and I saw them over a 15 to 20 year time period.
Yeah, and I didn't get into them until Low Teens came
That's what I'm saying, yeah.
Frank here. So I went out of my way to see this band.
Yeah.
I've disrupted my life to see this band. But that being said, let's segue into a band that did come back and is thankfully still together.
Thank you.
Underoath. So we have the album and the tour review.
Yes. So they dropped a new album called Voyeurist. Probably my least favorite album title of theirs because it gives me porn vibes. But yeah, they dropped a new album that is very experimental. So I think we could both can agree. It's I think you and I have kind of different opinions when it comes to Erase Me. I liked it quite a bit. I think you liked it to a certain extent, but wasn't overly wowed by it, right?
Yep, exactly that.
Yep. And this album, I think, is more of the same. They are experimenting. They are trying new things. I think one of my favorite thing about this album is that Aaron has definitely taken a backseat vocally to allow Spencer to kind of be that guy.
Flourish.
Yeah, to flourish and to grow into that role. And you'll see what I'm talking about when I talk about the tour stuff. But it is a very good album. Pretty good. I'll say pretty good, not very good. It is a pretty good album. Doesn't disappoint. And like I said, they're experimenting. They're trying new stuff. And there's some of the new songs, like songs like Hallelujah, which are very different from anything Underoath has kind of done prior, I think shine. I think, honestly, some of the weaker songs are some of the songs that they
are repeated.
Yeah. Yeah. That kind of retread some of the old territory that they've been in. And I think some of the newer stuff is stuff that maybe they should try moving forward. They do have their overly heavy moments. They do have that song about halfway through that has kind of like that voicemail kind of an intro to it that I liked quite a bit. They're improving as songwriters. It's not just chorus or verse, chorus, breakdown, chorus again. They're experimenting with new song structure and new things. So I'm a fan of it, man. I think it's a B. Very, very good. Not as good as I wanted it to be. Being there are also in my top 10 of all time. I wish there was a little bit more there, a little bit more meat on the bone, but overall a very good album. B for me.
So I did listen to it. I didn't go to the tour. And it's kind of funny because like I got on another Straight from the Path kick, and I was like, fuck, I should have went to that show.
Yeah.
But literally, Every Time I Die was the only band that I was like, yeah, no, that's it, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Very much along the same lines. It is a filling meal, but it is not one of those where you will be satisfied for the rest of the night. I found myself kind of like finishing the album and then going back to some of their older stuff. I don't think there's anything necessarily wrong with a nice, healthy, downsized meal.
Yes.
I will say, though, that I like this much better than Erase Me, and I'm, I kind of got over my youthful angst where, no, why'd you change your sound, right? In fact, I'm the total opposite now. Keep fucking experimenting. You're absolutely right. Some of those songs on there, I was like, wow, this is what we should have seen 5-6 years ago, right after the revival, right? Probably 7 or 8 now, if you think about it, Jesus. Yeah. But this is what should have came right out of the gate. And, it takes some of us longer to get to our dead ends, to quote, Defender and the Chariot. But it's one of those things where get weird with it. Try new things, and if it works and if it sticks, and if you constantly have that song on a tour set list and people are reacting well, lean into that direction, right? It's the whole of the plot new argument, right? When that flip happened, nobody saw it coming. Nobody expected it, especially from a staple C-tier band. Underoath is not a C-tier band.
No, they're not.
They are a very solid headliner or co-headliner. You can spin it either way, and people will be satisfied. Lean into the creativity. Take it new directions. This is not 2004 anymore, and I don't mean that in a mean way. I mean that in a, we've had 18 years to grow and develop, and if you need time and if you want to do new things, full send it.
Definitely. Yeah, for sure. I agree. I agree overall with your assessment. So yeah, good album. Could have been better, but I guess we'll have to wait and see what happens moving forward with them. I'm hopeful. I'm always hopeful about Underoath.
I was going to say, I wasn't excited for this album, but I think for the first time in a very long time, I am really excited for the next album. Okay.
Yeah, that's fair.
I think that's like worth noting too.
For sure. So with the tour, or with the album, comes a tour. The Voyeurist Tour, which again was supposed to feature Every Time I Die. Since they broke up, they kind of made some lineup adjustments. They moved Spirit Box from the opening band to the co-headlining band, and they added 2 additional bands to the bill. Straight from the Path, Bad Omens, Spirit Box, and Underoath. Now, with that being said, Spirit Box was hit with COVID prior to our show, so therefore probably the 40% of the reason why I wanted to go is off the table, which is actually double hilarious because prior to that, Underoath missed the show in Denver because of the snow. So this tour was cursed from top to bottom. Between Every Time I Die, Underoath missing a show, and Spirit Box having to hop off for a couple of days because of COVID, this tour is cursed, and we'll never talk about the Voyeurist Tour ever again. I promise you. Give me 1 second. Dear.
I'm going to go ahead and assume that he wants me to do the thing where I fill empty airtime. So I'm going to start this off like I normally do, and I'm just going to start conversating, and we're going to see how derailed we can get by the time Jacob gets back.
I'm back. I'm back.
Oh, wow. That was perfect timing.
Yes. Sorry. My kid walked in and let me know that there's food ready. So thank you, babe. But give me a second. But yeah, so of course, a cursed tour, we're never going to talk about it ever again. But, so let me just kind of cover from the beginning. Straight from the Path, seen them a couple of times. I like them. To me, they are a solid C band. I think they've kind of hit their ceiling. I don't see them getting any bigger than they are right now. But live,
I mean, I don't know, man. Fortune Teller's a banger, but how do you top that?
Yeah, they're a good, solid opening band to middle of the bill band. I like them. They're good live. I was telling Adriana because at this point, Drew looks a lot like Pete Davidson. And I'm like, man, I didn't know Pete Davidson was in a hardcore band. So
my favorite thing is that his name is Drew York. You can't get any better.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So I'm like, if the New York hardcore scene was a person, it would be Drew York.
Yeah, I think Madball fans have a couple of choice words for you.
Somebody for the last 20 years, please. Yeah, I fucking said it. Anyways, Madball. So yeah, they were good. Next up was Bad Omens. So previously on the Second City Kids podcast, you will know that me and Gabe spoke very highly of Bad Omens, right?
Like 2 years ago.
Yeah, that we thought very, very highly of them. That we thought that they were going to be kind of the next step up in the evolution of this thing. Now, since then, they haven't really dropped anything that has impressed either of us. I think it's safe to say, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I went into this kind of not as excited. My wife is a big fan, so whatever. I sat there, arms crossed, but. Watch the show. I think a couple of things could be taken away from this. And number one of which being their vocalist is exceptional. He is a star waiting to be discovered and to take into greater heights. Right?
He's fighting like he's fucking Brendan Urie in early Panic. I've seen the live set, man.
Yeah. Ultimately, he is being let down with the group of musicians that surround him. They are not great. They are very average. They're very mid, as the kids would say. And I told my wife this. I'm like, he is great. He's exceptional. He's an extreme talent. Monkeys can play those parts that they write. They're to me, it's a ripoff of. It used to be a ripoff of the Bring Me Horizon. Now it's a ripoff of The Plot and You. I'm not impressed with the music. I think he could be great. The band is holding him back. And the sooner he discovers that, the better off he'll be. My opinion. As far as the live show, sounded fine. A lot of fucking backtracking and not even the fun stuff. You would think that like the solo and, a lot of those cool leads would be played in person and the chugga 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 in the background wouldn't be, but it's actually the other way around because I'm not entirely sure that the guitar player is there was the guitar player who wrote it. So that's my opinion on Bad Omens. I don't know why they're catching steam, probably because of him exclusively. But yeah. He's great. He's ultra talented, and he's going to have a bright future ahead of him. But he's going to have to find himself a better group of musicians to surround himself with. That's my opinion.
Okay, so here's a question. I won't ask you how Underoath was because the answer to that question is very apparent. How many times did Spencer wrap the mic around his neck and whip it up into the air?
Actually, once by my count.
Wow, that's he's pretty conservative with that now, huh?
Yeah, he's not quite Adam Lazar level of wrapping the mic around the neck. He was getting there. I will give you that because I don't know if you've ever seen Taking Back Sunday Live. He spends probably 75% of the set with the microphone cord wrapped around his neck. But yeah, he wasn't that bad this time around. Yeah, so.
Copy that.
Moving on to the main course because again, Spirit Box was off the show, which bummed me out. Underoath obviously played a set, a grueling, I think 15 song set with a good amalgamation of stuff that everybody's familiar with some new stuff, with some deep cuts. They played a little bit of everything this time around. A good distribution of old and new, and they're great. I'm not going to say anything new, you kind of
know what you get.
Yeah. You know what you're going to get. You're going to be happy every single time. You're going to walk away satisfied, much like you're going to your favorite restaurant,
ordering your usual,
you know, you're going to love it. You know, it's going to taste good and you're not going to be disappointed about how you feel at the end. That's Underoath in a nutshell. They're great live. They'll always be great live. They have been for the past 20 years. Exactly. But what I did want to point out, which I thought was kind of funny, is that I feel like Aaron is taking a step back live vocally, and I don't fucking blame him because for the first time, I've seen him play On My Teeth live, and I understand why the fuck he doesn't want to sing anymore, is all I'm saying. So that's my opinion on the matter. They're great. Underoath is great. It is what it is.
Copy that. Thank you for the review. We have an album and a quick little discussion at the end. Okay, so the album is Fear and Dagger by a band called Paleface. Did you get a chance to listen to it?
Or Paleface, based on how you spelled it in the...
Paleface. Fuck. I can't English.
Which is funny, because neither can these guys. Now keep going.
Okay, so did you get a chance to listen to it?
I did, actually.
Okay, what did you think?
I think it's very good. I think it's very similar to stuff that's already existing. To me, it kind of reeks of Knocked Loose, especially musically. Vocally, it's kind of a different animal because they go very kind of weird because they go kind of hip hop and rappy on us on a couple of parts, which I don't hate. You know, I'm a new metal kid. I'm a Linkin Park fan, so I'm down for that style of delivery. I liked it. I thought it was really, really good. Is it bringing new stuff to the table? No. But what it does it very well. And I think fans of bands that are like these guys, I think they'll naturally like it as well, especially coming from a band that's smaller, that's not as recognized as maybe they should be. So I'm going to give Paleface kind of a nod, the seal of approval in a way, because I did like what I heard.
Cool. I'm glad to hear that. I came across a single like a couple weeks ago, and then somebody was like, "Oh, the album's out," and I was driving from Philly home, and I was like, "Perfect, right?"
Mm-hmm.
We have uninterrupted time. Let's knock it out. And dude, just the sheer violence coming out of this fucking man's mouth was intense. It was fun, and it was insane. And I'm leaning to agree with you that you're right. It doesn't break too much new ground, but I think what it does very, very well. And I would even argue that it's a weird mishmash of Knocked Loose, like current Knocked Loose, and like Year of the Knife.
Yeah,
I would put it somewhere in between those two. That being said,
honestly, it's Knocked Loose and Varials, if you ask me.
Okay, yeah, I can hear that
especially
too,
vocally Varials.
So my whole thing was, I was listening to this, and I looked at my girlfriend. I was like, I need you to look up where these guys are from and tell me, because I cannot pinpoint the sound. And you and I are usually pretty good about that. Like, okay, East Coast, or we can usually get it down to a city most times.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah. Either it's Australia, Boston, or somewhere in California,
or Ohio.
or Ohio. Yeah.
Yeah, don't forget the catch-all. They're in Cali now, but they're from Columbus. Columbus, California? No, dumbass, Columbus, Ohio. And I was just, astonished. I feel like we don't cover very many international bands on this podcast, but my thing is, you're right. They are not super known, and they are not at the forefront. We need them to fucking, come here. We need them to be on tours with bands like Year of the Knife, with Knocked Loose, with Varials, right? We need them with that support, or we need them supporting those kinds of bands, right? Counterparts, perfect fucking lineup, right? And then we will get them to the place that they deserve to be, because this is a fucking phenomenal album, in my opinion. I like it quite a bit.
Okay.
And like I said, you're right, not treading any new waters, not treading any new territories, but what they've done is that they've sat down and they've refined the wheel. They said, this design works, let us iterate upon it.
Let's add leather to this joint. Let's add rubber to this guy. Wood wheels are perfectly fine, but you know what's great? Rubber wheels.
The Swedes literally went, okay, what if we put nitrogen in the wheels? That way it won't shrink when it's cold.
Exactly.
Okay, so I dig it, and take what you want from this, but it's mean, it's dirty, and if you've been itching, like I've been itching all winter long, I think this is a good way to start off the spring.
And another thing that I will say is this album is 16 tracks long, and automatically I assumed, because the first track was like, the first real song was like a minute and like 50. I'm like, okay, it's going to be a bunch of that. And then it proceeded to rail off 3.5 to 4 minute songs. I'm like,
dude,
okay. Very cool.
That was my thing too. I was like, wow, I wonder how far I am in the album. And I look and I was like, I'm still on the same song. Holy shit. We're so used to an album being between 35 and 45 minutes. Most of the shit we review on this podcast falls in that line. And we argue like, this should have been an EP. They should have sat down. They should have refined, removed a little bit. And, but like for once, I'm like, this is a proper fucking album.
Yeah.
Sure, it's an hour and 6 minutes, but fuck it, we bang all the way through.
And it's funny because like because like I kind of, I go, how you go through the stages of grief. I go through the stages of, okay, if that's not what happened, then this is what's going to happen. So once I realized, got a minute and a half, hit the minute and a half song, I'm like, okay, it's going to be a bunch of that. And then I did some longer songs in the next couple of tracks. I'm like, okay, there's going to be at least 2 or 3 or 4 intervals or interludes, right? And they didn't even have that. So I got really confused about maybe 12 tracks in. I'm like, okay, it's got to be just an assault the whole time. Got it.
Literally, the only break you get is that intro 665.
Yeah, and the weird
that's
rap,
like creepy.
Even that weird rap Nickelback song in Halfway, which is by far my least favorite song on the album.
Perfectly fine. I agree with you. Still an interesting piece to examine.
Absolutely.
So for me, probably solid B+.
For sure.
I like it.
Yeah.
We'll see how long Paleface, I don't want to say sticks around for as like a band, but how much repeat time they get on my shuffle.
Sure.
Okay, and the last thing, so you mentioned Bad Omens, and a couple years ago we said these three bands are the forefront of the new wave of metalcore, right? And so is Northern Ghost, which is still MIA. I don't know why. If you do, please let us know. It was Bad Omens.
If you see Northern Ghost, please inform us.
Yeah, and I'm not talking about the Great American kind. I'm talking about the Northern kind. So it was Northern Ghost, it was Bad Omens, and what was the third band?
1,000 Below.
1,000 Below. These three bands, guys, what the fuck?
You know, it's funny though, because after saying that, right, because we had these three bands in mind, there was a separate triangle that did rise and take over. It was just Go ahead.
Let me guess. Spirit Box?
Oh, actually, I did not include them, no.
But to be fair, Spirit Box it wasn't a glow up. It was a firecracker.
Yeah.
It was a mortar. It was like, hey, here's an album, and then suddenly everyone's talking about it in like a week's time. Like, oh my god, this is the next big thing.
Think about it. This tour with Underoath that Spirit Box was on was their first complete tour that they've had.
Yeah.
Think about that.
I literally saw Courtney LaPlante tweet that, hey, we're doing this stop, and my parents finally get to see me perform this song live. So
this is facts,
hang on, no. Let me rectify that, right? Because what I'm about to get into is fucking hilarious. She finally said, "My parents get to see me play live." That means two things: one, they don't tour often, and two, her parents did not come out to see Iron Southern Barrel.
I don't blame them one bit on that one.
But yeah, tell me about the other triangle then.
So we thought it was those three bands that you just mentioned. What it did actually end up being is kind of the defining bands of this set or of this new era is Knocked Loose, Code Orange, and Counterparts.
Counterparts again?
Yeah, well,
I feel like every time they drop an album, everybody's like, no, this is what proper metalcore should be, my friend.
Well, yeah, but I was going to put Varials there, but after Trav left, I don't know. But definitely, I think there's no doubting Knocked Loose and Code Orange.
No, and the fact that Knocked Loose maintained that momentum and grew it after Laugh Tracks, insanity. Because that was one of the, 7 or 10 decade-defining albums we put out there? That's insane. Think about that.
Definitely.
That's fucking insanity. And we put a Beartooth album on there. Where are they now? Probably in Columbus.
I mean, shit. I don't know, man. Yeah, because I don't think he doesn't stop touring. He doesn't stay in Columbus. I think he wouldn't surprise me if he had houses in every other city except Columbus.
Yeah. So he just says fuck Beartooth, Ohio.
Exactly. So yeah, it's kind of a weird conversation because I think when I first heard Knocked Loose, I'm like, oh yeah, they're really good and I'm sure they'll be great. But I thought there was definitely a lower ceiling to them. And they broke through that shit like fucking Willy Wonka's elevator.
I thought, I don't want to say along the same lines, but roughly in the same ballpark. I thought Knocked Loose was going to be the band that always sells out the small venues that, like, whenever they come to town, if you're a core kid and you're in the scene, you're going to go to that show. And I thought that they were going to do things like Cobra Lounge, Sub T,
Beat Kitchen.
Beat Kitchen, and tear those venues to the fucking ground. Guaranteed every single time they came through your city.
Agreed.
But they've done venues 3-4 times the size.
It's
and
weird.
That is, shout out to those guys.
Yeah. Very, very weird. So yeah, man, that is it. That is
okay. Really quick. One last thing.
Sure.
Okay. So I have a Karma, a Dare, a Payasa, and a Year of the Knife set coming out on Friday.
Okay.
In addition to this new publication I'm a part of, which you will see on Friday because we'll be tweeting about it.
Nice.
Also, there is this thing called the Curse. Okay. Now let me tell you about the Curse. So as you know, I take Goose along, our Goose, not every time I die is Goose. I take Argus with me as a backup cameraman, right?
Yep.
My favorite thing about The Curse is that he doesn't know any of these bands going in, period, right? Like, no matter the situation, the scenario, he doesn't know any of these bands. And he hasn't been like, hey, I kind of like this band. I think they would fit, like, your channel. Like, do you want to ask them? You know, he hasn't hit me with that yet. But after the show at the Beat Kitchen, this dude very regularly now listens to Year of the Knife, and I just laugh because you and I ruin all of our friends.
We do. We corrupt them. I don't know if I mentioned this on the pod before, but my favorite thing is when I started talking to your friends. They're like, "Oh, you like Every Time I Die too?" I'm like, "Bitch, I showed Gabe Every Time I Die."
Yeah, it's kind of funny. It's like, God, there was another conversation we've had that I think somebody was like, "Oh man, I wish I would have gotten to see them when they were still together." And you just went, "Yeah, I've seen them probably a dozen times." Like, just walk past their set at Warped Tour and be like, "Okay, yeah, let's hang out. I've seen these before."
For sure. I
just think it's so funny.
Yeah, they forget that I'm an OG, man. They forget.
Yeah.
But there's that, and so yeah, you got a bunch of stuff going on, which I appreciate. But I know everybody who's been a semi-regular listener to this podcast is going to laugh. But I promise you there will be a show next week because I actually have 2 concerts that I have to go to.
And those are?
On Saturday, I am seeing Motionless in White and Ice Nine Kills. I am not going to include the third band on that billing because I am not going to see them. Even if they're playing, I promise, like, because they're rotating.
Is it the FIR band?
No, it's actually, that's not a bad guess. Black Veil Brides is the third. And I'm really, really hoping that they headline so I can fucking leave. But I'm going to see them on Saturday. And on the total other end of the spectrum, because they're playing the Aragon, on the other end of the spectrum, on Monday, which is going to be a weird fucking day to see a show, because I don't think I probably have, but it's been a while. On the other end of the spectrum, I got Code Orange and Dying Wish with Loathe at the Bottom Lounge.
That's going to be a good one.
Yeah, it's going to be a good one. I think there's tickets still available, so if you're interested, feel free.
I'd have to. I like all of those bands quite a bit.
Yeah, so if you're going to do that, let me know. And I'm going to see them on Monday, so I'm going to have 2 relatively eventful shows to go see over the next couple of days, and I do want to talk about them. I have the Harry Potter game that I want to talk about. We do have stuff to talk about. So we just had an hour-long talk about Batman and a 40-minute talk about music, and that's kind of typical for the pod, but shit.
And I will be at Heart Attack Man on Sunday, so if you're there, come say hello. Then Monday, I'll be shooting some behind-the-scenes footage of some artists that I cannot disclose at this time. Got
it. So a lot of cool stuff coming on the Second City Kids podcast. Definitely, join us next time because, like I said, I promise you, I'm not going to say we're doing a show next week and then disappear for 2 months like we just did. So, give me a fucking break. But so yeah, that's part of the plan. Thank you guys for checking out this episode of the Second City Kids podcast. This was episode 177.
77.
And we'll see you back for 178.
178.
And it's gonna be a good time. So until then, you guys know the deal. Comments, questions, concerns, you know the deal. Next time, deuces.